Hello, welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. My name is Caroline Heward and I'm the Harley Street Stress Expert. Our show today is Talking Heads. I'm an expert presenter in today's topic, which is psychological effects of cheating in a relationship, which is part of the Mind and Body series. Let's begin. I love to start with a quote in all of my presentations because I like to set the scene. I like to set the scene in terms of what we're really looking at. So cheating is also known as infidelity. Infidelity is not about love, but about a personal need, a system out of whack. And infidelity is to set boundaries. A sense of entitlement in an addiction problem, unresolved internal tension from a long time ago, a deep isolated belief of inadequacy, plus more. So today's topic is really deep, and that definition comes from Dr. Robert Heward. And I wanted to set the scene in a way that it's a much bigger topic than somebody who's just cheated on you for the sake of it. So let's explore the deeper aspects and how it psychologically affects you in the relationship, the person who's actually done the cheating, and also how it affects you emotionally. So here's another nice quote by Greg Behavioural. Let's call cheating what it is, a complete betrayal of trust. You can't talk about the subject of cheating without looking at the aspect of trust. Trust within the relationship for yourself and trust within the relationship with your partner. This can mean a betrayal of trust not only in a marital relationship, but actually a friendship. It can be a betrayal of trust in a relationship that hasn't got to the place of marriage, and it can be where you're living with somebody. So this betrayal of trust can be very deep in many ways. So let's just look at what it can look like when you're in that betrayal of trust. So you can be in a very intimate situation in bed where the woman or the man may be asleep and the other partner is on a phone, making text messages or quiet calls, those whispered calls where the other person is dead asleep. It could be that the partner has her doubts or his doubts and decides to check their partner's phone, and then they start to find out and things unravel. And these situations are never as easy as they look. They can be complex in terms of feeling secure and safe in the relationship or not feeling secure and safe in that relationship that's been a betrayal. I quite like this other quote on the other side of the slide. I cheated on my boyfriend 3 times because he didn't show me enough attention. And I find that really fascinating that it is, for some people, a reason. And this isn't a marital cheat. This is somebody that has a boyfriend and decided to cheat on them because she didn't get the external affection she was looking for. So I just wanted to paint a bit of a picture of the parameters of where cheating can lie and how it can be discovered and what causes it before we go into the real depth of this presentation. So cheating is not necessarily the very broad aspect of what people say, he cheated on me, she cheated on me. It can be in all sorts of ways. So let's explore in a deeper way. Let's look at some types of infidelity. And infidelity is another word for cheating. So it can be physical infidelity. And by physical, I mean that you can be in a physical sexual relationship with another partner outside of your relationship. It could also mean that you're physically seeing other people, dating other people without there being an intimate aspect to that relationship. The fact that the infidelity lies in the fact that you're hiding it. So if you are hiding a meeting with someone, it can be considered and would be considered as a type of infidelity because you're not being clean. If there was nothing to hide, then why would you hide it? And that very fact that you're hiding the physicalness of meeting up with someone can mean that there's something that's behind it, another agenda behind not expressing your truth of that physical meetup. But obviously, the most damaging is if there is a physical, intimate relationship with another person outside of your normal relationship. It can be emotional. So you can be leaning on somebody for emotional support and not expressing to your partner, to the person that you're in a relationship with, that you're doing that. It could be that it's an intimate emotional relationship outside of your relationship, which is one of the most damaging in terms of an infidelity in your current relationship. Why is that more powerful? It's because sometimes you can be in a physical relationship with someone and there be no emotions attached. So it's just physical. But when the emotions are there, it's very difficult to move away from that infidelity and to move away cleanly. And there will be all sorts of emotions that come up for you and for the person that you're in a relationship with, both sides, the infidelity and in your permanent relationship. And so it can cause all sorts of problems because when you get into the emotions, they spill out, and this is where all sorts of repercussions can come in for both parties. When you're in that emotional attachment, you're in feelings and emotions. And then you have an investment that's greater than the physicalness of that infidelity. I'm going to explore the emotional side a little later in a deeper way. It could be a cyber infidelity. With our current times of social media and our current times of really being connected to our phones and being very connected to social media and all the various platforms, there are many platforms that have emerged for people that it's very easy for someone to get into a cyber relationship. So you can be, there's new words for it now that certainly weren't around in the 70s and 80s called sexting, which is texting with the sexual connotations of a relationship that's not actually physical. It could be that you're exploring pornographic sites where if your partner found out, they would feel a level of you cheating on them because that would bring up things for them that they would not feel good about themselves, that they're not enough for you. So cyber infidelity, although you're not physically with the person, it's almost as damaging. In fact, if not even more damaging, because it's an escape mechanism, an escape out of your relationship and into the cyber world. An infidelity of an object, such as using your phone or work. If you move your attention more into your phone, so you might have heard the expression, he or she has a greater relationship with their phone than they have with their partner. you will see this, over dinner, in restaurants, at functions, where people are really glued to their phone, and it's almost like the phone has become the object of their attention, and the person that's in the relationship with them has become secondary. I've had, in my time, had lunches and dates with somebody's phone rather than with the person. And so I've made reference to it because that was very difficult for me, because I'm very much a visual and face-to-face person. I like the eye contact in a relationship. And when somebody is in the attention of their phone, it almost feels like you're not good enough for them, that whatever's in the phone, the message, the text, whatever they're looking at, is far more important than you. Or there can be an escapism into work, that the work has become much more important than the relationship that they're in with their partner. And so these objects are escape mechanisms from being in the relationship and being full into the relationship that they're in. And then they have a relationship with their work, with their phone, with their colleague, with their events, that there will be all sorts of other things that become priority over the relationship. There can be, and this is a very interesting one, financial infidelity. And this is certainly something in our current times that I have witnessed and seen more of, that people will spend money in different ways. And they will almost, for some, they will hide it from their partner. So they might have bought for a woman a very expensive pair of shoes or an expensive handbag. Or they might have spent more money on some clothing, a coat, a jacket, an outing, or a gown that they've bought for an event. And there's that embarrassment of how much that we have spent on that activity or that thing. And so we will hide it. And sometimes people run up huge amounts of credit debt by investing in this type of infidelity, of spending money that the other partner is completely unaware of, to the point that it affects what they can pay for in their everyday. So I'm looking at this from the perspective of it can really cause some damage, because the lie of keeping it from the person is much, much bigger than sharing the truth. There are times that people will be in the space of spending more money than their partner is aware of, and then they haven't got the money for the mortgage because the mortgage has increased in price over and over again. And so what they're spending their money on now leaves not enough money for them to be spending the money where it's absolutely necessary. So here's what happens when there's a financial infidelity. It builds up stress and anxiety in the person that is in that financial infidelity. It builds up a wall in between the partners in terms of the relationship. It builds up barriers, and it creates a level of anxiety, and for some a depression, because they are not able or don't feel comfortable to come clean with that infidelity. So financial infidelity is much, much bigger than what it might have looked at on the surface, because we are human and we spend our money in the ways that we spend it. And for some, especially in a relationship, what you spend your money on might be very different from what the other person spends their money on. And so it's important to share what happens to the finances and to be open. Sometimes it's difficult in a relationship to be open about the financial aspects of what we earn Somebody might feel very uncomfortable about divulging in the relationship the actual amount that they earn every month. And that is, again, another type of financial infidelity, that the person in the relationship doesn't know what there is to spend. So they might be very frugal in their spending, whereas they don't need to be. And this is a form of cheating the other person. So it's much, much deeper in terms of how we can hide things from our partner. Micro infidelity is things like, and it might look very innocent on the surface, it might look very not there, and yet at the same time, there will be a feeling in the partner that feels not right about what they've witnessed. And it can come out as what might look like very innocent flirting, a comment. It might be, sort of an over hug with someone, sort of an over tactile expression with someone when you're in that relationship. It might be that you're being overly friendly and overly flirtatious openly with someone in front of your partner, whereas that can actually make your partner feel very uncomfortable, almost not worthy of being with you, feeling that they're not good enough. It can cause low self-esteem issues, and it can actually build up to the point in the other person as a depression if they never say anything. Because on the surface, the little incidences, the times that you're flirting might not in their each individual situation be a big thing. But when you put them all together, it can actually lead to the person feeling very, very insecure that's in that relationship. So it's not that you've actually committed a crime and you haven't done anything really terrible, but it's always important to look at how the other person might feel because of that flirtatious behaviour. What imprint are you leaving behind? How does a person feel by your behaviours? I want you to consider that if you are a micro flirter, to have a consideration for the other person. And if you are at the end, the receiving end of somebody that is flirting in this way, that it is normal to feel this level of low self-esteem or not worthy in the relationship. Let's look at some common reasons why some people might cheat. It could be that the person that they're in a relationship with might be emotionally unavailable. What do I mean by that? We hear this term a lot, emotionally unavailable. So they're in a relationship, and they're in a relationship from the viewpoint of being seen in a relationship. So they have a partner, they do all the things together that a relationship deems that you should be doing. But there's no feeling and emotion behind it. It's what you see is all there is. And so the person might be, what I would call going through the motions without the emotion. So they're doing all that domesticity, being seen to be in a couple, and actually not feeling and expressing that love that you would hope for within a truly committed relationship. So when the person is emotionally unavailable, it can have a serious impact on that partner, and it can lead for some into severe amounts of anxiety or indeed depression, because they will feel emotionally starved of that relationship. It could be that the person has a fear of intimacy, a fear of being closely intimate with someone, which is why they hold back. So again, this person can go through the motions without feeling or showing that intensity of emotional experiences in that relationship. And the other person knows, because they will feel that there's a feeling of a lack of intimacy, a lack of expressive, emotional, physical intimacy. It doesn't matter how much you do to hide what you think the other person can't see, the person will feel it. It doesn't even matter if you don't say, the person will know, because they're close to you and they're experiencing everything that you're being, regardless of what you're not saying. It could be that there's some unresolved childhood issues. Now, this is a very big one, because it could be that one of the partners in the relationship has seen, witnessed in their own growing up childhood years that their parents had an infidelity in their marriage. And so they learn about the infidelity and the cheating aspect by what's around them. It could be that their parents' marriage broke down because of an infidelity, and because they were so young, they didn't have a say. They just had to bury the emotions and feelings. It could be that they have witnessed a relative in an infidelity and not known what to say, so they've pushed it down, knowing on some level that it was wrong. And so when you suppress something that feels very uncomfortable and very wrong, and not knowing how to handle the emotions and feelings, what happens is that it can be expressed in your external world, in your behaviours, and in the way that you respond and react to other people. And again, commitment issues could be learnt behaviour from family, from your peers, from the parents, the guardians that you had, that you grew up with. It could be that they weren't committed to each other. They might have had an open relationship. And so therefore, this is your norm. This is a perspective that becomes a normal for you. Why should I commit? And you will see when somebody is feeling not committed, because it will show up in all sorts of aspects of their life. It won't just be in the relationship side of things. It will be in their commitment to do things, in their commitment to take on tasks. You'll see this person as sitting on the fence a lot, or kind of hedging their bets, not neither saying one thing nor another, and kind of staying silent. Because they're not quite sure, and they're hoping that it will go away until they're open, or feeling comfortable enough to express that they're not feeling comfortable in being in a committed relationship with you. So this commitment side of things can spill out into their work, into their social, as well as their intimate and non-intimate relationships and friendships. It could be related to a self-esteem issue, that they're not feeling comfortable in their own confidence. They feel that they are not good enough to be in that monogamous relationship. And so going outside of that relationship and seeking an ego boost, because when you're being attracted and attractive to someone else, if somebody takes an interest in you outside of the relationship that you're in, it performs as a boost to your ego. And sometimes it's actually addictable, because the ego is where the solar plexus resides, which is the upper abdomen. And when we're in our ego, we are looking for a fix. We're looking for something to preserve our feeling and our comfortableness in terms of our confidence and our self-esteem. And so searching for that ego boost will have an impact on the self-esteem of the person, and obviously of the person within the relationship that has been cheated upon. Now, this very neatly goes into addictions, when somebody is in addictive behaviour, whatever that addiction is, whether it's recreational substances, whether it's a porn addiction, whether it's a sexual addiction, addiction to escorts or prostitutes, or an addiction to many partners, whatever that addiction is, what's really interesting is the behaviour of addiction comes from the solar plexus, and it's coming from a place of wishing to boost the ego, and a place where the person is feeling a level of low confidence or low self-esteem. So they're boosting their ego through these specific addictions. And there is not a right or wrong in this. These are behaviours. And when you recognise a behaviour, this is where it can be looked at, because the behaviour is the result of a trigger. And the trigger behind that addiction, whatever it is because there's something that's missing. And it will be in relationship to feeling in control or power within themselves, or within their relationship, or within a place of a low self-esteem or low confidence in themselves. So even though it looks really manipulative and highly inappropriate, it could be as a result of the fact that the person is seeking this external ego boost because there's something that's not right within them. And this is where it's important to seek external and professional help, because we will move into these addictive type behaviours where we will be destroying our own relationship with ourselves, as well as the relationships that we're in and friendships that we're in, because we're not serving ourselves fully and there's something missing within our lives. So the addictive behaviour can be that they're looking for something that they can't find within themselves. So they're looking externally to feel something different. And that external addiction of cheating in whatever way that they are will actually come back at them in a different way, because it doesn't serve what they actually needed to resolve. One of the big things that comes up in an infidelity is trust. One of the biggest issues when there's been an infidelity that's been discovered is a trust issue. And that trust runs very deeply. That trust is something that once it's broken for some people, there is no way back. I certainly myself have had an infidelity in a relationship when I was 17. And it didn't matter how much I loved that person, how much I wanted to be with them. I just couldn't stay in that relationship. I couldn't be in that relationship anymore, even though it nearly enough destroyed me, because I'd lost everything as far as that relationship was concerned. I couldn't step back into it because I would wonder what he was doing. And so this is very common for some people, to feel that level of how can I ever trust them again? Once the trust is broken, it's broken and I can't go back. And if this is you, if this speaks to you, there is no wrong in that. It's a very hierarchical level of response. And at the same time, that means that there's a value in you on trust. It will almost be incomprehensible to the other person. Well, can't you just forgive me and forget about it? I'm sorry. There's a place for some people that they just can't go back. And even if they do try, and I say this operatively, even if they do try to go back, it doesn't work, because there's all sorts of mistrust and miscommunication in terms of that relationship thereafter. And it causes them all sorts of untold anxieties and depressions that they wouldn't have believed possible by pushing themselves into the place of believing them and trusting that person again. So if trust is very high on your value list, feel comfortable that it's okay for you to literally end the relationship. Because for some people, once the trust is broken, they can't make it work. And if this speaks to you, allow yourself the flexibility, the honesty, the integrity of saying, it's okay. We've been there. We've had the relationship. It's over. And if you can get past the trust, then there are ways that you can do it too. So allow yourself the comfortableness of exploring, is trust one of your values? If somebody broke your trust, how irrational do you get when somebody breaks your trust? Because if they've broken your trust, you will know if you've got very irrational and said, no, I can't do it, I can't go back, even though you're suffering and you really want them and you really love them and you just can't do it, it's because it's for value and it won't make sense. When we're hit a value, it will cause us untold amounts of anxiousness and for some, a depression of the past betrayal. Looking more into trust, it has a cycle. Trust begins, and it's an internal thing. Trust is not an external thing, it's an internal thing. And then it extends from us into our relationships, our family, and our friendships. We start with self-trust, the inner trust. And when we trust ourselves to make all the right decisions and do all the right things, that's when it becomes incredibly powerful. That moves the person that is in that huge place of trust into a high level of integrity. When you are in a huge place of internal trust for yourself, you will operate with very high levels of integrity to yourself and to others. This will lead into an extraordinary high level of confidence in whatever you do, because you come from a place of trust, which will lead to consistency in whatever you do, in whatever aspect of life that you are in. You will lead into a huge level of consistency in the way that you behave in all aspects of your life, whether it's in your relationship, whether it's in your work, whether it's in your family, whether it's in your friendships. It doesn't matter where this arrives, you will be consistent. There will be the opposing, the opposite level of the trust angle from integrity, or that you will become very sincere in everything that you do, in everything, to the point that you almost might do yourself a disservice, because you might come across as so sincere that you will have an honesty about what you feel you can or cannot do, or what you are concerned you won't be able to accomplish or deliver. And so there will be, for the person that comes from this huge level of trust as a value, they will have a huge level of sincerity in everything that they do. Everything. It will be throughout their entire way of being. And it can actually have the opposite effect of not doing some things because they don't feel that they can. Maybe the finances aren't there. Maybe they don't feel that they're good enough. Maybe they just don't feel that they can achieve what's been asked of them. And so this is how it will appear. Now, somebody that has a huge trust as a value within them will be 100% reliable, because they will be committed in whatever they do. Have a look at these qualities Do you know people that have these qualities? Somebody you can really, really rely on, that will be committed, that will have consistency, that will have competence, and that will be sincere, almost to the place of a disservice to them, that you see beyond that disservice and you move out to that place of disservice and you support them in whatever way that you can, because you see, you know this person is trustworthy. They're consistent because they have a high level of integrity. These are powerful qualities to have. And my invitation for you is to look around you and see who you trust in your personal, your professional, and your intimate relationships. And look at where they are on this scale of all these other qualities that come out of trust. Because when the person has this value of trust within them, they will show all these other very powerful qualities. And my invitation to you, when somebody is demonstrating this level of commitment and trust within themselves and to you, is to honour them and be respectful back, because they just might need that little bit of a push to stretch what they feel they can and cannot do. My invitation for you, if you meet such a person in an intimate or a relationship that is a relationship of intimacy, is that if you break their trust, they will not come back. If you break that consistency of their trust in you, they will move away. There will be nothing that you can do. Are you that person that has trust as a high value in the way that you operate in the world? If this is you, understand why it's difficult for you to forgive. Understand why it's difficult for you to commit to things that you're not sure about. And appreciate the level of commitment that you've made to yourself in this level of trust. I want to share a very whimsical quote with you that made me smile when I read it. And this is about recognition. And this quote is from Faye Weldon. And it's speaking in a bit of a tongue-in-cheek way. One tends to suspect others of what one is guilty of oneself. Let me say that again. One tends to suspect others of what one is guilty of oneself. The unfaithful wife or husband is quick to suspect the husband or wife of infidelity. Because if you are the serial cheater, you will recognize the signs in another person. You will recognize what that person is doing, because there's a familiarity in that infidelity that you recognize if you also are a person that creates a cheating aspect within your relationships. And it did make me smile because of the way this quote was worded. One tends to suspect, it's very tongue-in-cheek, which is very much the behaviour of somebody that will be cheating on their partner. So moving on, can a relationship survive cheating? Now, I've given you some reasons why it might not survive. But definitely, it can survive. And these are some ways that it can survive. Before we look at that, I want to look at after the disclosure. So after that infidelity has been opened up and disclosed, what can happen within the relationship, how it can affect the relationship. Because once the disclosure of that infidelity has occurred, it can bring up all sorts of emotions to you personally within the relationship, and obviously with the person that has done the cheating. So there will be an anger within the relationship of the exposure of that cheating. There will be an anxiousness of that relationship, because both parties are not knowing how the other one is responding and feeling uncomfortable. It can move for some people into a depression where there is a focus within the relationship on the past and never really moving from that past infidelity. Always, if there's an argument or an upset or something that's said, that will keep going back to that space of that infidelity. The conversation keeps going back, which can create a depression, because if you keep considering and having the conversation of a past issue, of a past infidelity, that focus of being in the past can create a depression within the relationship for both parties. It can, within the relationship, create a level of self-loathing, because the person, whether they've been the one that's cheated or the one that's at the end of the cheating, and certainly the relationship itself is an entity in its own right, can be in a space of loathing, be in a space of shame and guilt, and can create all sorts of repercussions for the relationship. It can really lead to the relationship coming into a self-esteem issue, where the self-esteem of the relationship becomes very small, very low and insignificant, and almost it becomes that's the focus of the relationship. And for some, it can, if there's children involved, it can impact the children, because the children, even though there may be a situation that you're not talking to the children, if there is children involved in this relationship, it can lead to the children feeling insecure within the relationship of the family. It can lead them to feeling a level of insecurity of whether that relationship of the parents will last, and that will make them feel very uncomfortable and show up in their external world, maybe at school. It might be that they're not sleeping. It may be that it will affect their appetites. It can affect them in all sorts of ways, and they will never say anything because they don't know how, but it can impact the children in a big way. After disclosure, the person who was cheated upon can feel a level of grief, loss. They can move into a place of that experience of the relationship never regaining what was. So they will be grieving the loss of that beautiful relationship that they were in before the disclosure of the infidelity. And that loss is like a grieving process where the person is still alive, they're still there, they can't get past it. And so they are grieving, which makes the heart sink, it makes the breathing become very laboured, and it makes the person move into a place of uncomfortableness, like they're fighting a battle every day. They're fighting everything that you're saying, and they're questioning everything that you're saying, which will lead them into a place of overly thinking everything that's said, being psychologically betrayed by what happened, can harm and hinder everything that goes afterwards, because they will feel a level of what are they doing now? What's happening now? Maybe checking things, checking pockets, receipts, bank statements. When you're in the overthinking state of believing that your partner is cheating on you, that can create a level of you not letting go of the previous infidelity. It will lead to an anxiety of What are they doing? What could they be doing? So a future place of infidelity, and a depression, looking at the past infidelity. And when the mind is focused either on the future or the past, the person that's being cheated upon is not actually living in the moment that they're currently in. And so they're escaping, not living present in the world that they're in, and actually escaping life, not feeling and experiencing life. It can lead to what's known as infidelity post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, this is pretty big for some people because we've heard of the term post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is essentially where we've handled the stressful situation, physically, mentally. We've handled it in terms of the physicalness of that trauma in that time by shutting down the feelings and emotions so we don't get hurt. And this is what can happen. The person can shut down the feelings and emotions so they don't get hurt. And then up will come in their calm times, in their quiet times, maybe when they're asleep, maybe when they're in their place of relaxation. But the infidelity, post-traumatic stress will come up in the moments they're not even expecting it. And it's because the feelings and emotions haven't been handled about that past infidelity. And it's much more common than you might consider it is. And it can spill out into relationships post that infidelity relationship. It can lead and go into new relationships where there is an issue of betrayal trauma in every relationship because they're seeking it, and it's because it's unexpressed emotions and feelings, because it's been suppressed. And so it can come up in new relationships where they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't say anything. They haven't done anything. And yet you will live out that trauma as if, because the trauma has been suppressed. And so it comes up when you're feeling more relaxed. It can, for some, lead to risky behaviours, such as many partners having unsafe sex. It can be that they might drive recklessly because it comes out as a punishment, that they want to punish themselves. And maybe it's coming from a place of low self-esteem, low confidence, feeling not in their power to do anything about it. And it can, for some, lead to self-harm, to take the pain away. Or indeed, for some, depending on the extraordinary extremeness of the infidelity, it can lead to some people deciding to end their life because they can't cope with the pain of that infidelity. So it can be extreme for the person who's been cheated upon. This is not small aspects of somebody that has had a small betrayal. Because if they have trust as an integral value, these types of extremes of expression and these types of extremes of behaviour can be from that level of broken trust. The person who's cheated after disclosure can carry a lot of guilt or shame. A lot of guilt because it's now in the open and they're in their relationship and they know that it was wrong, but they don't know what to do about it. And it can create a huge level of shame for that person. It could, for the person who's done the cheating, end up with them feeling hopeless within the situation, of feeling helpless to stay stuck in that relationship. They feel hopeless to do something about it because they're seeing the effect the direct impact and effect of their behaviour, of that infidelity. And so sometimes it may lead to them staying in a hopeless relationship that they see no way out of. It could be that they're suffering from a level of grief, a giving up of the relationship as it was, because once the disclosure has happened, the relationship will step into a new place for both people. And it might not be the best place to be for the person that has done the cheating. And yet there will be, even though they have done the infidelity, it might be that they are grieving what was the greatness of their relationship. And it may move them into a place of giving up on the relationship that was. And perhaps moving to a place of forgiveness. Please forgive me. I was wrong. It was a moment of madness. I love you. It was nothing. It was just physical. I didn't love them. I don't know why. I was drunk. All these different excuses can come up. And when the person is seeking forgiveness, it's because they've realized that in that place of almost losing someone, they actually realize what they're losing in that place of being in an experience of about to lose this beautiful relationship. This is when it can make the relationship stronger for the person who cheated. And on the other side of that coin, it could be that the person decides to blame their partner. You weren't there for me. You don't love me. You don't show me the affection. That's why I've cheated on you. It can mean all sorts of things, and they can literally play the blame game, making you the injured party, the wronged one. You did this, therefore I cheated on you. You didn't love me enough. You didn't show me enough affection. You're not emotionally available in this relationship. You've deprived me of a physical, intimate relationship. Why do you think I sought relationship outside of this relationship? I love you, but I need to have that physical part in the relationship. There are all sorts of reasons, and they can be quite condemning and quite damning on the partner that is left in this space of being cheated upon. This is where you may get a narcissist manipulating, making themselves right for their behaviour and making you wrong, because there's a place that they feel very uncomfortable about taking the blame. Sometimes, for the narcissist particularly, it's much easier to make it all your fault. It's your fault. I didn't have, you wasn't giving me what I needed, so I went elsewhere. You should put up and shut up. And if that happens, what do you do with that? Where do you go? How do you survive when somebody puts you into a place of blame? It's not easy, because you can be forgiven for taking on their guilt, their shame, their hopelessness. You can almost be seen to believe you did something wrong, especially if they're very high manipulators. My invitation to you is to go inside and allow yourself to feel whatever it is that you feel, and find the place that feels right for you to respond from a place of your authenticness of what feels right for you to respond. Because if somebody's blaming you and you do believe that it is your fault, that is another aspect of you taking ownership of something that may not belong to you, that's something that may just not be yours to deal with. Does this sound recognizable? Are you that type of person that takes on what somebody else will throw at you? This is called transference. So when somebody transfers their stuff onto you and you start to deal with their stuff as if it's your own, as if it's your own thing to deal with. And this can be very challenging for the person because they could be forgiven for believing that it really is their fault. And this is where you end up in a domestic abuse relationship, a narcissistic relationship, because they put on you and make you move into a place of believing it was your fault. I can assure you it's never your fault. And the place to move to is a place of conversation, a place of openness, of open conversation on both sides, so that you can move through this blame and move to a place where it feels more comfortable, whether you continue in the relationship or whether you end the relationship. That it doesn't begin in the place of blame. There has to be a conversation on both sides. True forgiveness. Oprah Winfrey. True forgiveness is when you can say, thank you for that experience. Oprah Winfrey. Let me say that again because it's so powerful. True forgiveness is when you can say, thank you for that experience. Because when you can thank the person for that experience, this is the place that you can move on. This is the place where you have an acceptance. And let me be really clear here. This isn't forgiveness of the act of the betrayal. That's not what I'm talking about. Because the betrayal is a betrayal. You're not forgiving them for it. You're actually forgiving yourself. And when you forgive yourself for the situation, for the response, for the behaviours, for the space that you find yourself in, that forgiveness is healing for you. It's an incredible healing journey to forgive. Because the forgiveness that you express is not necessarily for the other person. It's actually for you. It creates an incredible inner peace. Let me say that again. It creates an incredible space of inner peace for you. And this is not making it right that the other person did the cheating or had an infidelity towards you. This is not that. Because that is a behaviour that is not acceptable. This forgiveness, this heartfelt forgiveness, changes your experience and moves you into the heart vibration. And it helps you to find a place of peace and compassion for yourself. Look at what you gained from that experience. Look at how you've moved forward. Take the lessons of that experience, of that infidelity, and find a place for you to move on that feels right for you. It might be not to stay in that relationship. It might be to stay in that relationship, and it might give you an absolutely incredible relationship to move forward to. The invitation here is that forgiveness is a powerful, powerful healing tool It may sound frivolous to forgive, but when you forgive, it has untold healing qualities for you, for your life, for your children, for the people around you, for your family, your community, your peers. It can be the beginning of creating your world peace. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your heartfelt attention. I know today's topic has been difficult. I am sure on many levels that many people have experienced this form of cheating in different ways, whether it be professionally, personally, in a relationship, in an intimate relationship, in a friendship. There are no rights and wrongs. There is only the experience. We are here to have a human experience. If we take on board that we are spirit and we come from inspiration. Spirit is a part of inspiration. And if we come from inspiration and we are in a physical human body, having a physical human experience, and having an experience to feel, to know our emotions and feelings. This is a place to learn, to feel joy, sadness, compassion, gratitude. This is a place where we can grow. If you feel that you've had benefit from this lesson, you can find me on Talking Heads on USA Global TV and Radio. There will be an incredible set of Talking Heads presentations from 2022. I would be honoured for you to go and look at some of those presentations. The subject matter that I cover is not always easy. Some of it's deep, some of it's challenging, because you might be the person that has done the harm. You might be the person that's suffering from the harm. Whatever, wherever it is for you, put your trust in seeking some answers, by seeking some advice. And I share so much in those presentations. I would be honoured if you looked at some of the other presentations that I have done. They're really not PowerPoint presentations, they're healing transmissions. You've been listening to Caroline Heward, the Harley Street Stress Expert. If I may be of some help to you, if I may be in service to you, to help you in some way, reach out to me on email nomorestress@live.co.uk, or call me if you're international +44, if you're local 07523 120 189. It has been my absolute privilege to share this lesson with you today. Please stay peaceful. Go into a place of trust for yourself and live in a place of authenticity and integrity. Those are my gifts that I share with you. Thank you. Namaste.